Bind us together, Lord, bind us together with cords that cannot be broken. Bind us together, Lord, bind us together, Lord, bind us together with love. Welcome, I'm Bob Vail, the pastor of the LaPorte First United Methodist Church. That song, Bind Us Together, is what a message we need today. And that Christians and neighbors and co-workers, we need to bind together as one to fight against the coronavirus. And so that's kind of the message I'm going through as we go through this storm. And so today, it's March 21st, Saturday, and we've been through this quarantine now for a week or so, and I think we're going to be going even more. And so I have a special message for you today about the Apostle Paul and being shipwrecked on the island of Malta. So this is the coronavirus devotional for March the 21st. For the most part, the effects of the coronavirus pandemic is here in LaPorte, and life has drastically changed for all of us. Do you feel sometimes like you're in a storm, being tossed about by the wind and maybe the waves of life? But even in the midst of the storm, I want you to know that God is here. Each day, the box of our lives gets smaller and smaller as each day we get new rules that seem more stringent. Each television news cycle creates new changes and tells us where we can go or where we cannot go, or how small of a crowd we need to attend. No restaurants to eat at, offices are closed, schools are closed, businesses are upended, and even churches are closed for worship on the Sabbath, and they are recording them on live stream and Facebook. We are eventually moving towards a self-quarantine and isolation at our homes. Life is very different than it was a month ago. We are not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. Never before have humans been so dependent upon each other to do the right thing and slow the coronavirus down. Sometimes I feel like we're in the middle of a storm that is lasting a while. A long while. Have any of you ever been to the island of Malta? It's a small, tiny island off the coast of southern Italy and Sicily. However, this small island has a great Bible history about the Apostle Paul, who was shipwrecked there with nowhere to go. I've actually been to this tiny little island in my travels, and if you look at Acts chapter 27 and verse 28, it tells us that when Paul was on the ship in the middle of the storm, he was riding in a large Egyptian grain ship that had only one large sail and no rudder. It was guided by two large paddles on either side, but was basically useless in this large storm at sea. They were riding the waves of the storm for 14 days. Can you imagine that? 4 large anchors was the only thing that held them in place at the sea. Can you imagine being out on a ship with no rudder for 2 weeks? No way to steer, no way to give you direction, just tossed about helplessly by the huge waves and strong winds. Perhaps that is how you feel today. We are being tossed around with self-direction, without it, by this global storm of the coronavirus pandemic. Eventually, the ropes of the anchor of Paul's ship were cut, and they were shipwrecked up against the shores of Malta and had to swim to shore as the ship was torn apart. Perhaps you feel a bit shipwrecked all at home, all alone at home, as you are self-quarantined. But take heart. As Paul landed on the tiny island of Malta, the people rushed out to meet them and care for them and save them. They gave them shelter. They made a fire right on the shore and gave them food, and they even gave them a new ship to travel. But they were stuck there all winter long. 276 men had to stay in Malta for the winter season. And during that time, the Apostle Paul healed people. He ministered to them. And he was kind to them, and they were kind back. Paul was bitten by a poisonous snake, but miraculously was not harmed at all on the island of Malta. They endured the long winter of isolation on this tiny island. And then spring came, and winter storms were finally over, and the seas had calmed down, and they were able to leave. Take heart, people. Take heart. We will get through this storm just as Paul got through his storm. We will be kind to each other. We will give to each other, just as the people of Malta were kind to Paul. As Paul was on the ship in the midst of the storm, God clearly spoke to him, and he said to the 276 men, "You will be okay. God is with you. You will be safe." Please know that God is with us in the midst of our storms of life. When this is all over, we will set our sails on a new ship, a new direction, just as the Apostle Paul did 2,000 years ago. Take heart. God is with you in the midst of this storm. There's no greater song that I think that we could sing together than this simple little chorus, "Bind Us Together." We are in this together, and we'll get through it together. So love and care on each other through phone calls, through emails, and it goes like this. It goes, "Bind us together, Lord, bind us together with cords that cannot be broken. Bind us together, Lord, bind us together, Lord, bind us together with love. There is only one God. There is only one King. There is only one body. That is why we sing. So bind us together, Lord, bind us together with cords that cannot be broken. Bind us together, Lord, bind us together, Lord, bind us together with love." May the Lord bless and keep you until we meet again. And please share this with other folks that may want to see this and be encouraged, because the storm will end and we will have brighter days. May God bless you.